Okay, tonight is Chanukah. And it's very interesting. The Rambam, the very famous Rambam, says, Mitzvah Ner Chanukah, Mitzvah Chaviva. The Rambam says it's a Mitzvah Chaviva. It's a very, very dear and precious mitzvah. Ad Meod. Where do we find the Rambam using such language? Rambam doesn't. He doesn't use that language anywhere else. All of a sudden, by Ner Chanukah, Mitzvah Chaviva Ad Meod. V'tzorach Adam Lizor Bo Kedei Lohidia Hanes Lohoiset B'Shvach Hakel V'Hoidoya Al Nisim Shosalon. He doesn't even explain what the Nisim were. He doesn't explain what the Nisim were. He leaves that up to us to understand. But it's a Chaviva Ad Meod. What's Chanukah? What are we celebrating? So everybody knows the Gemara. We have a Gemara in Shabbos, My Chanukah. So then it brings from the Brisa from the Brisa, B'Chof Hei B'Kislev. Yeah, Chof Hei B'Kislev. On 25th of Kislev, the days of Chanukah are 8. Why? Shekasha nichnasu Yavonim leheichal. At the time when the Greeks, they battled Antiochus. He battled against the second base of Mikdash, the second temple period. Against the Yidden in the second temple period. So he battled, and they went into the base of Mikdash. Timu kol hashmanim. They were matame all the shmanim in the heichal. Kashagovra malchus beish hashmanoi. So they made a rebellion, and they won. Benitzchu, and they checked. They couldn't find any oil for the menorah because you have to light pure oil. And the goyim, the Greeks, they were defiled all the oil. They found one pach of shemen with the chosim of the Kohen Gadol, and it was only enough for one day. They said, "We'll do it." So they lit it for one day. They sent shluchim to Tekoa. There's a place called Tekoa. So Tekoa is the place where they made all the shemen. It's very known for its oil.
Kiryat Sefer, Rabbi. They came to Kiryat Sefer.
It's Kiryat Sefer.
That's what we say.
Wherever it is.
So that's what I was told.
But it says it took 4 days to get there, and then 4 days to come back. It would have taken 4 days to go there and 4 days to come back. So they sent to Tekoa to get pure oil. So they lit this in the meanwhile, and it lasted 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 8 days, until finally on the 8th day, on the 9th day, they got pure oil from their sources. So everybody knows this is. So what are we celebrating on Chanukah? We have Al Nisim. We're celebrating the candles, and we're celebrating the victory in the war. Because Baruch Hu had Rachmanis on us. There's a very, very interesting. The Arizal had a Talmud. There's a sefer called the Shach al HaTorah. The Shach al HaTorah. It's not the Shach that we know. He's a Talmud of the Arizal. So he's a Makubal. And he makes some very interesting comments. He says that we find in the story of Yaakov Avinu already, in Chumash Bereshis, we just passed it, we find already it's foreshadowed. The story of Chanukah is already foreshadowed. Now listen to this. He says the Pach HaShemen that the Kohen Gadol found was the same Pach HaShemen that Yaakov used to anoint the Matzeva after the dream of the ladder. We know that in the Parsha of Vayetze. So Yaakov had the dream of the Sulam, And he saw the Malachei Ashoris going up and going down. Yeah, they're ascending, going up and going down. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to be with you. The Yaakov, he got up in the morning, and he took the stone that he'd used as a pillow, and he set it up as a matzeva. Matzeva is a monument. It's a monument. And he poured oil on it. He poured oil on it. That was the first Pach HaShemen. Then Yaakov, he went for 20 years. He was by Beis Loven. And he came back. By Yavosa Yaakov Levado. And he was left alone, and he wrestled a malach. The malach, he was the Sar of Edom, of Esav. The Sar of Esav. He wrestled with him. Why was he V'yavosa Yaakov Levado? So Rashi says, for the Medrash, he came back, he was hunting for some small pachim. What were those pachim? Everybody asked the question, what are you going back for pachim? Into putting yourself in sakana for pachim. Says the Shach al Torah, there was the same Pach HaShemen. He was hunting for that Pach HaShemen. That's what he went back for, and it caused him to have a battle with the Malach. And that was the Pach HaShemen, says the Shach al Torah, that the Kohen Gadol found at the time of Chashmonoim. Had enough oil for one day and lit for 8 days, and they made new pure oil. Chazal made Chanukah. Now this is the Talmud of the Rizal. He's not telling us a cute little, the connection. There's a cute connection. The Talmud of the Rizal does not do things which are cute. He does things which have a deep, hidden meaning. There's a story that we have to follow. What's the message he's trying to relay? So I heard Pshat. And it's in Moatzor. This is universal. Moatzor was written in Germany at the time of the Crusades. They decimated Europe, the cities. We don't celebrate. We commemorate after Pesach. We have Yemei, or the Avelis after Pesach until Shavuos, is because that was the time when the Crusades were at their height. Moed Sur was composed in Germany in the 1100s and the 1200s. I'm not exactly sure who it is. And you'll notice that Moed Sur is universally sung on Chanukah. Everybody sings it on Chanukah, and everybody sings it with the same niggin. Moed Sur Yeshu. Everybody. The ganze Welt. So that tells us something. Now, if you look at Moed Sur, it doesn't really have anything to do with Chanukah. What do we start off with? Moed Sur Yeshuasi. We want to leis tochin matbeach. I want to build the Beis Hamikdash. We want to build the Beis Hamikdash. V'yozig mo b'shimas mo Chanukah's hamizbeach. Then we'll have the Beis Hamikdash. We'll have Chanukah. So it's a song about the Beis Hamikdash. You could say that's the Chanukah. So, but it's saying that's what's going to be in the future. In the future, we're waiting for the Beis Hamikdash. It's a song about the future Beis Hamikdash that we're davening for. And what is it? It starts with what? Now listen to what it starts with. It starts with Mitzrayim. Ro Sova Nafshi. Malchus Egla, that's Mitzrayim. Chel Para, V'chol Zaro, Yardu Ke'eved, Mimsula. Kriyas Yamsuf. So it goes to Mitzrayim. Then Dvir Kodsho Heviani. It goes to Bavel. Then there's the Golis Bavel. So it's talking about all the Golios. The Golis Mitzrayim, the Golis Bavel, Kates Bavel, Zerubbabel, Kates Shivim Shnoshati, 70 years in Bavel. Krois Kaimas Barosh. Then we get to the story of Purim. Bikesh Agagi, the Ben Amdosa, that's Homin. Robano Bekinyonov Aloes Toliso. Then we get to Chanukah. In the middle of all of a sudden we stick Chanukah in there. Yavonim Nikbatsu Alai, Bimei Chashmonim, parts of Chomus Migdalai. They went into to the base of Mikdash. They made pirtzos. They ripped down parts of the wall. Minoisa kankanim, nasa nes l'shoshanim. Yemei shmoina kovu shir nanim. 7 days of Chanukah. 8 days of Chanukah. 8 days of Chanukah. And then it says chasoif zroya kodshecha. We daven now for the Yeshua. We're davening. We're in the middle of Golus Edom. That was the time of the Crusades when this was written. We're davening for the end of Golus Edom. Hakadosh Baruch Hu should nukom nikmas avodecha. He should take nekama. The Chei Admoin, that's Edom. Hakam lana roya shiva. Bring the Mashiach. The 7 royim. There's 7 royim. Mashiach is going to come with seven leaders. Now, Motzor doesn't seem to have anything specific to do with Chanukah. It's about all the Golios. Motzor could have been sung anytime. You could sing at Pesach time. It's appropriate. Purim. It's very good about Purim. It's got Bovel and it's got Homin. And it's very interesting. If you look at the Rosh, the beginning of the stanzas, it spells out Mordechai. Now, that's probably the name of the person who wrote Motzor. That was their style, but it could fit into Purim. It's got, the Rashi Tevis of Mordechai. What has it got to do with Chanukah more than any other Yontif? And the fact that this stuck, this is a Siman Min Hashemayim, the fact that this stuck and is sung until today it's more than it's 1,000 years already, from the 1100s, the 1200s until today, and everybody's singing Motzor. Everybody sings Motzor. Chanukah is a yontif celebrating a nes. Now, all the Torah on what is the nes, and they ask questions. We like the menorah, so it's on the nes of the menorah. But you read Al Anisim, it doesn't even mention the menorah, the nes of the Ner Chanukah. Vehidliku neiros v'chatzos kashech. It doesn't say anything about the nes. It's the nes of the Milchama. So it's not. What is the nes that they were established the Yontif of Chanukah for? For the nes of the Pach Hashem and the nes of the Hatzlocha in the war, the Nitzachon in the war. I want to say there's a bigger nes. There's a bigger nes that Motzor is talking about. There's a bigger nes that Chanukah is talking about. That's hidden. The Shach HaTorah is telling us there's a nes hidden inside of Chanukah. You've heard of Yaakov Emden? Yaakov Emden, the son of the Chacham Tzvi, the great Yaakov Emden. He has a very famous statement in the Hakdama to his Siddur. He's got a very, very important a very important statement. He says the greatest miracle of world history is not Kriyas Yam Suf, and it's not Matan Torah. These nisim pale in comparison to a single miracle, which is the fact that Klal Yisrael is still here. We're still here. The Baisai, we're still here. Any philosopher be able to argue that the preservation of the Jewish identity, we're in exile. Can you say it's natural? It's al pi teva? This surpasses in my mind all the miracles and wonders that the Almighty did for our ancestors in Mitzrayim. And the longer the exile, the Golus continues, the greater the miracle becomes. There's no greater miracle as the survival of Klal Yisrael among the Goyim. The Yidden have gone through all their hardships, and we're still here. We're alive and intact as Yidden. That's the greatest miracle. We've been thrown into Golas time and time again. We've been persecuted over and over and over again. We've been thrown out of country from country to country. We've gone, we've run, we've established new communities. We were thrown out of that country. I once heard somebody make a statement, I don't know if it's true, but probably is. If you look at all the flags of the United Nations, I don't know how many flags there are, 120, whatever.
192, I think.
Whatever it is. We've been thrown out of all of those countries. And if you find a country that we have not been thrown out of because the Yidden didn't live there. And we
Yeah, but you don't believe it.
A lot.
right? And we're still here.
Encouraging that. Yeah.
And we're still here. This is against all reason. It's against anything you can imagine. All the nations have persecuted us. And where are they today? They're all buried in the dustbin of history. Where is Mitzrayim? It's a different country. There is in Egypt, but it's not the same empire. Where are the Greeks? It's not the same people even. It happens to be. They don't even have the same language. It's the same different Greek. Where are the Romans? They're gone. Where are the Babylonians? You find them in some, archaeological excavations. You have to dig with a bulldozer to find the Babylonians. And we're still here. It's against anything anyone ever predicted. It's inexplicable. That's what Rav Yaakov Emden says. I swear by the name of the Rebbeinu Shalom, this is the greatest nest. It's easier for me to understand Kriyas Yamsuf than to understand this. This is the greatest nest that the Rebbeinu Shalom has ever done. That's the great Yaakov Emden. And if you don't believe Yaakov Emden, let's go to the Goyim and see what the Goyim say. The Goyim say the same thing. 300 years ago, Louis XIV of France, there was a great philosopher called Pascal. He was a great French philosopher. And King Louis asked him to give proof of the existence of miracles. Prove to me that there are miracles. Without batting an eyelash, Pascal said, "Why? The Jews, Your Majesty. The Jews." Now, if you have any doubts exactly what he meant, you don't have to have any doubts because he spelled it out. He in his masterwork, the Pensies, he wrote a masterwork of philosophy. He says, the Jewish people have survived until then, the 17th century, was nothing short of a supernatural phenomenon. It's supernatural. He stands in awe of the Jewish people. In spite of all the brutal attempts throughout history to destroy the people of Israel, we've suffered through crusades, inquisition, pogroms. The final solution. Adolf Hitler declared, the Third Reich is going to last for 1,000 years. And we're still here. And he's buried somewhere. Took a poison. He buried with the Third Reich. Jews have defied all predictions of their demise. You've heard of Tolstoy? Leo Tolstoy. He wrote a masterpiece of a novel called War and Peace. Now, he was a very religious Russian Orthodox Christian. And he wrote an article called What is the Jew? The Jew is the emblem of eternity. Listen to this. He who neither slaughter nor torture of thousands of years could destroy. Neither fire nor sword nor inquisition is able to wipe off the face of the earth. He who was at first to produce the oracles of God, we were the first ones to declare what a Kodesh Baruch Hu wants from mankind. He has been for so long the guardian of prophecy, which we do. We're the Shomrim of Nevi'us. We have transmitted it all to the rest of the world. Such a nation cannot be destroyed. The Jew is as everlasting as eternity itself. This is a goy. Tolstoy. The famous statement by Mark Twain. Mark Twain was very far from being a religious person. He was an agnostic. He was a self-acknowledged skeptic. And he wrote in 1899, the Egyptian, the Babylonian, the Persian rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, made a lot of noise. Then they faded to dream stuff and passed away. The Greek and Roman followed, made a vast noise, and they too are gone. Other peoples have sprung up and held their torch high for a time. It burned out, and they sit in twilight now, or have vanished. The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he has always been, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All things are mortal except the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality? He doesn't answer the question. He's an agnostic, of course. He's not a religious man. Now, Mark Twain once opened the newspaper and he read his own obituary. And then he declared that the report of my death is highly exaggerated. So too the Jews. With a smile, we can remind ourselves. There was a magazine in the 60s. There was a Look magazine in the 60s, had a cover story on the top page, it has the top headline, The Vanishing American Jew. And they wrote an article in 1964, confidently predicted that certainly there will be no Jews will be left in the United States in the 21st century.
I mean, intermarriage, Rebbe, assimilation. I mean,
we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Still far from
We'll get to that in a second. Right? Now, but they said, but they'll say it'll be vanished. Jews will vanish from the American scene. Well, we know what happened. Jews survived, and Look magazine folded. Disappeared. When do we celebrate this ness of the Jewish eternity? When do we celebrate this miracle? The Ribono Shel Olam has done such a miracle for us, we have to celebrate. Lahoidos lahalu, we have to thank the Ribono Shel Olam. That's the Yom Tov of Chanukah. Chazal, this is what the Shach is saying, we'll see. It's a celebration, it's a hoidah, it's a thanking Hashem on the ness of the miracle of Klal Yisrael's survival. Kadosh Baruch Hu could have done so many different nisim on Chanukah. He could have made the war. He could have made a victory of the war. The victory of the war, we struggle to find a ness, a miracle in the victory of the war. A couple of ragtag yeshiva bachurim got together and they made guerrilla warfare, right? They made a rebellion against the mighty Greek army. And they won. The Ma'atim, the Rabbim, Ma'atim. It's true. But it's a nes nister. It's not an open nes. And it was a very bloody war. We had a lot of casualties. And it wasn't a one-time, it continued for another 30 years. For another 30 years, they were still battling the Greeks. It wasn't a decisive victory. Kadosh Baruch Hu could have done a Kriyas Yansuf, done a tornado, done lightning, gotten rid of the Greeks totally and absolutely. We could have had an Egyptian, a miracle like in Mitzrayim. No. He does a nes. Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted a nes. What was the nes? They found one pach shemen, and it lasted longer than it was expected to last. It was a flame that was supposed to last for one day, and the flame lasted longer than it lasted. Now we're all used to that, of course, because we grew up with that, We grew up with, Chanukah 1 day and 8 days. Why did he pick that nest? Because the Rebbeinu Shalom is telling us the nest of Chanukah is not about Chanukah. It's about, there's a flame that lasts much longer than it should last. That's not the flame of the menorah, not the flame of the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. We don't have a Beis HaMikdash today. We have Yidden. It's the flame of Klal Yisrael that lasts much longer than it should have lasted Api Teva. The flame of Klal Yisrael survives all the winds of history. That's Chanukah. That's what we're celebrating. That's the Pach HaShemen. We're celebrating the Pach HaShemen, defining the Pach HaShemen. It's true. We're celebrating the Ness of victory in battle. It's true. But when they established the Yontif, they realized Klal Yisrael is going into Golus. Chazal understood in Bayesheni that it's temporary. Do you know that the second Beis HaMikdash was not built like it says in Yechezkel to build the Beis HaMikdash? Yechezkel gives a very, very detailed layout of how to build the Beis HaMikdash HaOsid. And that's not what they did in the second Beis HaMikdash, because they knew that the second Beis HaMikdash was temporary. There's going to be a third Beis HaMikdash. They already knew that. It's temporary. It's going to come to an end. We're going into Golus. Chazal knew we're going into Golus. And therefore Chazal established a Yontif to strengthen Klal Yisrael. There's a Moed Tzur. If you think about Moed Tzur, the people, when I found out today when Moed Tzur was written, it was written during the Crusades. It was a terrible time. The whole of Europe was almost wiped out from the Crusades. And the people were despondent. And the author of Moed Tzur, he wanted to encourage the Klal Yisrael. So he says, this is just another stanza. This is just another stanza in Moed Tzur. And this is going to end. This Golus Edom, they were in Golus Edom, Golus of Europe. We're still in Golus of Edom. It says there were 4 Malachim. When Yaakov saw the Sulam, he saw a Malach. He asked the Kasha, why it should go down? A Malach goes from Shemayim, should go down and then go up. Why does it go up and then go down? Oilim v'yardim, what's Pshat? So it's the four Golios, the 4 exiles that we go through. They went up, they became strong, they made a lot of noise, and then they came down and disappeared. 3 times they went up, and 3 times they came down. And then the 4th one went up, and Yaakov didn't see it come down, and he got scared. That was Golus Edom. It's the longest Golus we have. Kosh Baruch Hu says, don't worry. I'm going to be with you. And that's what Moed Tzur is. All the Golios that we're going through all these different time periods, but we're going to be around. Klal Yisrael, you are eternal, like me. That's what Kosh Baruch Hu is telling us. We're still here. How long should Klal Yisrael have lasted? From Avram Avinu? A year? 100 years? 200 years? 3,000 years and we're still here? Nope. Everybody's gone. Everybody's gone. You read the stories in Tanakh. One nation after another took over the world. They're gone. You don't hear about them. And we're still here. Does that make any sense? This is what the Shachal Torah is telling us. Yaakov Avinu saw the ladder reaching up and the Malachim going up and down. Each exile has its end. And Yaakov saw this, and he takes the Pach HaShemen and he anoints. He makes a monument. It's a zikaron. A monument is a remembrance. A remembrance. It's an edus. It's a testimony of the nevuah that he had, and he anoints it with oil. That was the Pach HaShemen. That's the Pach HaShemen. All these malachim are going to come and go, and my Pach HaShemen is still going to be here. It's on this permanent matzeva. 20 years later, he comes back from Lavan's house, and he forgot the Pach HaShemen. He passed by the Pach HaShemen. I got to get the Pach HaShemen. Why did he have to get the Pach HaShemen? Bain Shleilim. I was 20 years in Lavan's house, and I survived. In Lavan Garti, V'taryag mitzvahs shamarti, and he built the Klal Yisrael with his wives and his 12 children. And he goes back looking for that Pach HaShemen. That's the part the Pach HaShemen represents. Klal Yisrael is here, li'olam voed. And that was the Pach HaShemen that the Kohen Gadol found. Kosh Baruch Hu was winking at Klal Yisrael. I know that you're in Golis. I know that you're having a hard time with the Greeks. The Greek is going to be, it's a battle. It hasn't ended yet, the battle with the Greeks. I can't really get into it. But the battle with the ideology of the Greeks. You Jews are just like everybody else. You're not special. That's what the Greeks wanted. Stop with your nonsense of calling yourselves the chosen people. Kosh Baruch Hu winked at us and says, it's a Pach HaShemen. It's supposed to last one day. It's going to last 8 days. It's going to last a flame that will last longer than it's supposed to. It's the story started in Tzias Mitzrayim. It went through the Beis HaMikdash. Tragically, we had to go to Bavel and to Persia with Haman and the story of Purim. Then we had Chanukah. And then we had the Roman persecution. It's a story that's going to continue. And sometimes we have to put our lives into the context of that story, and we have to realize something bigger is going on. We should not be here. And we are here. And that means there's a nest required to keep us here. On Chanukah, we're busy with the nest of the Pach HaShemen. Why do we need that miracle? Why do we need the miracle of the Pach HaShemen? They could have used Talmudic oil, you know? Everybody asked the question. Tumah Hucha B'Sibor. If Tumah Hucha B'Sibor, they could have used Talmudic oil or they could have waited. They wanted to be Machmirim. So they could have waited 8 days until they got pure oil. Why did the Kodesh Baruch Hu need a nace that they found one day's worth of oil and it lasted for 8 days? He's telling us something. He's winking at Klal Yisrael. You're supposed to last 1 day, and you're going to last for 8 days. 8 is a symbol of Lamala Min HaTeva. 7 days of the week. 7 days of the week is a symbol of Olam Hazeh, Olam HaTeva. Mila is on the 8th day because Klal Yisrael is above Teva. So Chanukah is the 8 days. We're above Teva. You're unnatural. You have a light that's never going to go out. A month ago, the Agudas Yisrael in America, every year they have a convention, and they get together and they have all the Rabbanim and all the Gedolim and everybody, and a lot of speakers, and it's like a 4-day weekend, and it's a very, very important occasion in the cycle of Klal Yisrael. Agudas Yisrael has done a marvelous job of, I mean, just look in America. Just look at America. I remember America when I was growing up. You know, to be a frum yid. I mean, I wasn't born into but when, you know, my grandparents came over. When my grandparents came over, you know, it was all the Yidden. You read the history of America. All the Yidden were fried. They were totally non-religious. It was run by non-religious Jews. And the religious Jews who came over, they were given a choice. Either you work on Shabbos, you come in on Shabbos, or don't come in on Monday. And it was a very, 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 very big Nisayan. A lot of people fell. A lot of people fell. And everybody was expecting that Yiddishkeit was going to disappear in America. And Baruch Hashem, a few great Gedolim, you had Reb Moshe and Reb Aaron Kotler and the Satmar Rebbe and other great personalities, and they didn't give up. They didn't give up, and they built up Yiddishkeit in America. And they have now, Torah is spreading all over the place. There are yeshivas and day schools, and it's on its way up. That American vanishing Jew, it's true, like you said. The non-religious Jew, he's vanishing. They have nothing to keep them going. But the frum community is growing by leaps and bounds. So Reb Aaron Feldman, he's Rosh Yeshiva of Baltimore. Maybe many of you know him, maybe. He's Rosh Yeshiva of Baltimore. He gave a speech. We are now suffering from that terrible, they call it October 7th. They don't want to call it the Shmini Atzeres or Simchas Torah. That Yom Simchas Torah that was turned into one of the worst pogroms that we've had since the Holocaust. What is remarkable in America, on our home front, is the reaction to the atrocities of October 7th last year. We expected sympathy for those atrocities, but instead, we were faced with a global wave of hatred and accusations which defy the imagination. And this wave has not yet subsided. Genocide. It's a term invented to describe the indescribable. The evil of Hitler. And yet this term is applied to a nation which legitimately defends itself and is fighting for its survival. Unlike any nation in the history of war, they exhibit humanitarianism by informing those buildings they are going to bomb. They have to bomb those buildings because there are terrorists hiding, there are tunnels underneath, there are stores of weapons and military centers underneath those buildings, and they inform the people to leave the buildings. It's unheard of in warfare. In all of warfare, this is unheard of. And despite this humanitarianism, they're accused of genocide. The International Criminal Court accuses the Prime Minister of crimes against humanity. The Pope has a picture of little baby Yoshka with a kafir. And he says the Jews have to stop the war. They're machine gunning down Arab children. He doesn't mention a word about the hostages. It's unfathomable. The accusation takes place at the very same time that one of the great world powers is engaged in wanton daily attacks on civilians with indiscriminate bombings of cities, schools, and hospitals. What's going on in the Ukraine? International Criminal Court does not react to this. There are no college campuses that set up vigils to protest. Nothing. No reaction, only against the Jews.
No Jews, no news, Rebbe.
Ask Rav Aaron Feldman, has the world gone mad? No. It's not a new phenomenon. Hatred of the Jew has existed since the beginning of the Jewish people. We have to understand this. Chazal tell us, why is Har Sinai called Har Sinai? It comes from the word sinah, hatred. When Torah was given, hatred came down to the world towards the Jewish people. They hate us. Even before Sinai, the sages tell us that Esav, even before Sinai, Esav hates Yaakov. It's a halacha. It's a fixed principle. Esav is the forefather of the Roman Empire, the forerunner of the Western world, Europe. He hates Yaakov, the forefather of the Jewish people. It's a principle. So the world is behaving the way it's always behaved. Nothing's changed. Let's switch over to the Jewish reaction. What's the Jewish reaction to anti-Semitism? Well, we've had 2 centuries, in the past 2 centuries since the emancipation, in the 1760s or whatever it was, there was a whole movement in France and Western Europe, and they emancipated the people, and they started being free thinkers. So there was a reaction by Jews who were ashamed of being Jewish. And there was a different reaction by Jews who were very proud of being Jewish. Now, being ashamed or proud of being Jewish, says Rav Aaron Feldman, I don't mean someone who's proud of Jewish food, or Jewish music, or Jewish jokes, or Jewish mothers. I mean someone who's proud of a yarmulke, his tzitzis, beard, peyos, keeping the mitzvahs, keeping Shabbos and kosher. Now, those who are ashamed of that, those who are ashamed of being Jews, they started movements to combat anti-Semitism. That was big. How do we stop anti-Semitism? They believe that's how Moses Mendelssohn started. He was the beginning of the Haskalah. Moses Mendelssohn, he was a Talmud Chacham. And he started, you have to be a goy in the street and a Jew in the house. And that will stop anti-Semitism when they see that we're not so different from them. They believe that by leaving go of Jewish distinctiveness, the non-Jew will begin to love us. They wanted to blur the differences between the Jews and the non-Jews. These are movements like the Reform Judaism. They wanted to rid the Jews of the mitzvahs and customs and the minhagim, because that separated us from the goy. They wanted us to be like they made the synagogue service very similar to the Protestant church service, with organs and choirs. And Haskalah was another movement, wanted the culture of the nations of the world to become part of Jewish culture. Bring the culture of the world in. Everybody should study Goyish culture and become a man of the world. And the most successful of those movements and those shamed of being Jewish was secular Zionism. Herzl was motivated by anti-Semitism. He couldn't stand it. He didn't understand. He was a non-religious Jew. He was ignorant of Judaism. But he couldn't understand why they hate us. And after the Dreyfus trial, he saw that Dreyfus was a non-religious officer in the French army. So even the non-religious Jews were attacked with anti-Semitism. So he says, so for us to be like them is not going to help us, because Dreyfus was like them. So he said, we have to separate ourselves and make a nation. Secular Zionism came from Herzl, and it wanted to turn the Jews from a nation of servants of God to a political entity where being Jewish means merely living in a Jewish state and speaking Hebrew. That's all. These movements designed to turn Jews into Goyim. That's one group. How to combat anti-Semitism. The other reaction is Jews who are proud of being Jewish. We refuse to join those who are ashamed of being Jewish. The people who are proud of being Jewish refuse to accept reform. They refuse to accept Haskalah. They refuse to recognize secular Zionism as legitimate. Jews who are proud to be Jewish cannot join with Jews who are ashamed of being Jewish. Now, the movements designed to make Jews into Goyim are all failures. Reform Judaism is breathing its last breaths. It's dying out. Its major contribution to Jewish life are the many empty Reform temples that have turned into yeshivas and wedding halls. They're empty. Why are they empty? Because their intermarried children are not interested in attending those services. Haskalah and its many writers have long been forgotten, except for some streets in Israel that are named after them. 75 years ago, the secular Zionists created a state in the Holy Land. They created an educational system, institutes for scientific research, industry, commerce, agriculture, general prosperity. They omitted one element from that state. They deliberately left Hashem out of the picture. If you study the Israeli Declaration of Independence, there was a fight. They wanted to thank Hashem for making the Jewish state. And the secular Zionists vehemently rejected that. You don't bring Hashem into the Declaration of Independence. So Ben Gurion made a compromise. He said, Sur Yisroel, the rock of Israel, will last and will reestablish itself. Now you can interpret the Sur Yisrael as whatever way you want. The Jewish mind, the Jewish boldness, the Jewish courage, whatever, however you want to interpret it. They left out Hashem. They deliberately left Hashem out of the picture. Now Hashem, why were we chosen at Har Sinai? Why we were chosen to be a nation of servants and holy people. We are a nation devoted to Him in every respect of our lives. Hashem gave us a Torah where He commanded us to have tzitzis on our clothing, tefillin on our heads, mezuzahs on our doorposts. He wanted us to testify His existence on Shabbos. We declare against the evolutionists and everything they're teaching in schools and universities. Hashem created the world in 6 days. On the 7th day He rested. There's Hashem in the world. Hashem created the world. That's what Shabbos is all about. That's what Yom Tovim are all about. The history of the Jewish nation, that Hashem declared His existence to the world through the miracles that He did for us. We have to refrain from eating foods that dampen our yearning for sanctity, because that's what Tarfus does to us. We have to refrain from slander and evil tongue to make ourselves into dignified people, a light to the Goyim. We have to support the poor and devote ourselves to the study of Torah. We have to turn ourselves into a holy people, Am Kodosh. Now, to ensure we remain a holy nation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a land where we will be able to flourish in our devotion to Hashem without the influence of the nations of the world. In the Bayis Rishon, all the Yidden lived in Eretz Yisrael. And we were instructed, and we tried, not totally successfully, to get rid of all the nations, all the Goyim from Eretz Yisrael. And we should divorce ourselves from the world. Secular Zionism has been here for 75 years. Secular Zionism was created to stop anti-Semitism in the dream of Herzl. And secular Zionism, as we saw on October 7th, and its aftermath, far from solving anti-Semitism, it has created more global anti-Semitism on a scale greater than anything in history. A Jew cannot travel in any country of the world without being spit at or having his life in danger. Today. Not like in Nazi Germany, where in Germany you couldn't walk in the street, but in America you could. You can't walk anywhere today. Whether it's Montreal, they're shooting, BBs. They're not BB guns. They're real guns. They're shooting guns at a Chabad, a girls' school, setting fire to shuls, molesting Jews. A pogrom in Amsterdam and in Germany, all the countries of the world, there are potential pogroms, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And why is this happening? Because of secular Zionism. Those proud to be Jewish react to secular anti-Semitism differently. What did we do? The Hasidim got together and they created Hasidic courts. Great Baruch Hashem, you have bells and ger and Vishnitz. You have all the Hasidim that created Hasidic courts. You have explosion in yeshivas. You have day schools in America. There's a rebirth of Yiddishkeit all over the world. Koilels, Torah learning. You go on the internet, there's Torah learning everywhere. Everywhere there's Torah learning. You get bombarded with Torah learning, Baruch Hashem. Even in Russia, there's a rebirth of Yiddishkeit. What about anti-Semitism? What's the reaction to anti-Semitism by those people who are proud to be Jewish? What's the reaction to anti-Semitism? Anti-Semitism can't be solved. It came down to the world with the Torah. Hashem knew when He was giving the Torah, He gave it together with a hate. The rest of the world hates us. He wants the Jews to be the conscience of the world. He wanted the nations of the world to say, Rak am chacham v'navoin hagoy hagodol hazeh. Only this great nation is wise and understanding people. That's what He wanted. Whatever is decent in the world, think about it. Whatever is decent in the world, whatever is decent in the other religions, is a result of the Jews. They all stole it from us. All the good things all the other, whatever is decent in the world, they took from us. Hashem wanted the Jewish people to be the conscience of the world. Without the Jews, the world would be a jungle without Jewish values. If we cease to be a distinct nation, we would cease to carry out our mission in the world. What about the threat of anti-Semitism? Anti-Semitism is a physical threat. It's real. But the Rebbeinu Shalom, who gave the hatred of the Torah, He brought it down. Har Sinai, Sinna. He promised to save us. He's a Kel HaGodol HaGibur VaHanoira, the great, almighty, and awesome God. He's promised to protect us. There have always been 70 wolves. That's the nation, the metaphor for the 70 nations of the world that are out to destroy us. 70 wolves that want to devour the lonely sheep of Israel. And the Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't let them. B'chol dor v'dor, omdim alei l'kaloseinu v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzileinu miyodam. In every generation they rise against us, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu saves us. He hasn't let them for thousands of years, and He will never let them until Mashiach comes. But He will only protect us. This was your point before. What about all the non-religious Jews? I feel sorry for them. They're my brethren. But He will only protect us if we remain faithful to our mission. We have to be different. We have to be proud of being Jewish. We have to devote ourselves to our Yiddishkeit, to chesed, to helping our communities. We have to serve Hashem by keeping His Torah and mitzvahs, by davening. If we do that, Hashem says, I will protect you from the 70 wolves. But if you don't, the wolves will devour you. Not completely. Answer to your question. Not completely. He's got to keep us around for the Mashiach. Mashiach has to come. So we have to be there when Mashiach comes. And we're going to be there when Mashiach comes. But there will be suffering. It may be terrible. What's happening today is a result of the Jewish people's lack of commitment to what a Jew is. We're trying to get the Goy to love us by compromising our values. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I won't protect you. You have to be the conscience of the world. There's anti-Semitism. They don't like us. They go after us. They annihilate us. But we have to remember, that's Moed Tzur. Now, we hope very much. Moed Tzur has 6 stanzas. It's got 6 stanzas. It's got all the Golios. We hope that we don't have to add another stanza. We hope that Moed Tzur is over. And therefore we daven to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Chasoif Zuraya Kodshecha V'Korev Keitza Yeshua. Kadosh Baruch Hu, reveal your outstretched, holy outstretched arm and bring the Yeshua. We daven. It's time. The story's over. Tzigiyaz man. The story's over. We've had enough paragraphs and we have enough stanzas in Motzor. Enough people have tried to kill us. Bring the Soif HaKates. The only answer to all our problems is the Bias Goyal Tzedek. And we believe with Emunah Shlema there's going to be an end to this. Kosh Baruch Hu promised us. And the Mashiach will come. There's going to be Kates L'chol Tzorasenu. Chasoif Tzroya Kodeshecha V'karev Sheitza Yeshua V'goim Nikmas Dam Avadecha Meyom HaRasha Ki Yachalanu HaYeshua V'ein Kates Livnei Hara Techei Admon B'tzel Tzamon Hakam lanu ro yeshiva, Techei Admon B'tzel Tzamon Hakam lanu ro yeshiva. Shkaya.